We are here in the Alliance Cemetery. It's late July 2025, and we're visiting community members. We're here in one of the earliest parts of the cemetery. I'm standing next to a monument to early settlers, the location of whose graves are not known with certainty. We're here in the children's section of the cemetery, where many infants and young children are buried. This is baby Kramer.
My grandfather, for whom I was named, came here a couple of years after the original settlers founded Alliance Colony. And he was a carpenter at the time, and he built many of the buildings in the colony, and especially helped build the Brotmanville Synagogue, where my father eventually was bar mitzvah. I learned a lot about the life there just through conversations within the family.
We're here at the Alliance Chapel, right next door to the Alliance Cemetery in Norma, New Jersey. We're celebrating the renovation of the Alliance Chapel, which has been refurbished and made into a richer exhibition of the history of the Alliance Colony. I'm standing in front of one of the historic panels. There's 8. This one is talking about the early history, Russian pogroms, immigration out of the Pale across Europe, eventually coming to New York City. On May 9th, 1882, 43 founding families arrived at Bradway Station, just outside of where the Alliance Colony would set up on the western shore of the Morris River. They were going to farm. Many were adherents to Amalam, a back to the land movement. When the colonists first arrived, they were put in 3 long barracks, 25 feet by 150 feet. It was communal living. They all cooked in a large iron pot outside, and they lived very close to the land in very rustic conditions until late November of 1882. By November, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society had constructed houses for each of the families. They were placed in the houses with about 15 acres each for their farm, given small implements. They were taught simple farming procedures, and life began in the new colony.
South Jersey was developed along the lines of an ethnic archipelago. They wanted to develop on small farms that were self-sufficient. 5 and 10 acres would be enough in the 1860s, 1863, and the whole self-sufficiency movement started and appealed to people from Southern and Eastern Europe. First the Germans, then later the Italians, and later the Jews. All came here just not to starve again.
1883 was the first full year of farming for the colonists. By then there were over 400 men, women, and children. They were struggling with sandy soil, learning how to farm. They were pulling stumps, chopping down trees. 1884, 1885 were difficult years. The colonists struggled. But they struggled heroically. By 1890, the colony is on a firm footing. By 1900, the colony had matured into the neighboring towns of Alliance, Norma, and Brotmanville. The farming had matured as well. Healing sweet potatoes, for instance, brought the highest prices in the New York City and Brooklyn markets. Schools were also deeply significant from the earliest days in the colony. The children were well educated. The greatest crop of the early colonists was their children. They went to school, they were well educated, and many went out into the wider world. Life in Alliance was hardworking, but also fun. Our exhibition describes the Norma Alliance Beach, which generations of community members enjoyed on the Morris River.
It was our beach. In other words, if we said we were going to go to the beach, we weren't going to Atlantic City, we were going to Norma New Jersey, which was part of the Alliance Colony.
We also described the Norma Athletic Association. Its baseball team was avidly followed and successful. Life in Alliance was good. Central to the farming display in the chapel are the Ark and Bema from the Broughtonville Synagogue, decommissioned in 1981. The synagogue was a mile down Gershel Avenue. The Ark and Bema were brought here for display. The Alliance community has always honored its forebears and celebrated the achievements of the community. Leviticus proclaims every 50th year a jubilee, a yovel. The community comes back together and celebrates its achievements. In 1932, the first yovel occurred at Alliance. Over 1,000 people returned to the community to celebrate. In 1982, the second yovel, and in 2032, the third yovel will take place, celebrating and remembering.
This was a slice, not just of Jewish history and immigration in this country, but of the overall mosaic of immigration. It was a piece of it. It was, to me, a fantastic story. Here are these people who were not allowed to own land for 600 years. All of a sudden, they're in this experiment that they're going to be farmers in an area where they're wearing funny clothes and they speak a funny language and they have their different religion, and they're just dropped down in the middle of the moon. And it just, for them to survive, to do well, and then for their children to leave and flourish in society in America at a time when we didn't have all of the social programs that we have today. It was just the neighbor taking care of neighbor and the small government taking care of what they could. To me, it was kind of miraculous. And I thought that it's a story that really should be told.